Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode on the show. Our guest today is Thom Dennis. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be with
All right,
you.
Tom, I would like you to introduce yourself to my audience.
Okay. Well, I've been around a while. I spent 17 years in the Marines, learning about leadership, learning about different cultures and how we handle or mishandle them. I set up in business when I retired from the Corps back in 1991, and since then, which is sort of 35 years odd now, I've been working with organizations and leaders in organizations, helping them sort themselves out, really, helping them understand what motivates them, the consequences, particularly the unintended consequences of their decision making. And I sort of pulled this all together in a book which I've written, published earlier this year, which is called Rewilding the Corporate Mind, which kind of brings all my experience together in one place and looks at leadership and the way that we need to lead differently for the future, because the way that people are leading today is really just getting us into trouble, which you can tell just by listening to the news and reading the newspapers.
All right. Thank you so much. As always, our first question on the show for authors are always, what is the inspiration behind your book? Tell us what inspired you to write Rewilding the Corporate Mind, and what does rewilding mean in a leadership context?
Well, I suppose, like most people's experience, this wasn't a moment, a eureka moment in the bath, necessarily. I'd been wanting to write a book for quite a while, but there were various catalyst moments, I would say, when I heard other people, for instance, Isabella Tree talking about wilding, as she called it, where they had allowed a 3,500 acre estate just to go wild, and they introduced certain keystone species and let the whole sort of develop itself. And that was a rewilding for me. And I because I've been involved with leadership for so long, I then said, well, how can we apply that principle to leadership? And that was really a big moment, I would say, in the development of the ideas, which I then took on to develop the book.
Okay, thank you so much, Tom. So you argue that burnout isn't a resilience problem, but a system problem. Can you explain that distinction?
Well, leaders, because of the pressures in organizations, particularly because of the pressures that are on everybody, they tend to make quick decisions based on a problem that is presenting. Somebody comes in your office and says, oh, boss, there's a problem here. You say, right, how do we solve that? Bang, finish, off we go. And the trouble is that in solutions to problems at that level of thinking are the seeds for a whole bunch of more problems. And what we actually need to do is to take a step back and say, well, what are the roots of this problem? Where does it come from? And that's really what I talk about, systemic thinking. When we really look at what's causing a problem and understand that the issues are rarely the presenting problems. They're much deeper and come from a different place. So systemic thinking takes longer, but it actually over the long run. It saves a lot of money and a lot of time. So that's what I mean.
All right, Tom. So your career has taken you from the Royal Marines to coaching CEOs. How did that journey shape your philosophy of leadership?
Well, I think the Royal Marines, first off, are not necessarily a typical service. They're a small organisation, and they depend on people of every rank to be making good decisions, not a kind of top-down decision model, a decision and direction model, which I think a lot of people think of when they think of the military. What surprised me was when I came out of the Marines and I went into organizations, I did find a lot of top-down directive leadership, which causes all sorts of problems. So I wanted to take what I'd learned in the Marines and then very early on apply those kind of ideas to how leaders can more successfully function by allowing people further down the organization much more scope to make their own decisions. And of course, the problem for senior leaders in so many organizations is that they don't have the same control. And if you don't have the same control, then the natural instinct is to be fearful and to say, well, I need to control this because otherwise people are going to do it wrong. And that's a very destructive controlling function. So yeah, that was me bringing my learning from the Marines into the corporate world.
Okay, so I was wondering, Tom, what are the biggest signs that an organization's leadership culture is no longer serving its people?
Well, I suppose that one sign is that the good guys, leave. You tend to find that the best people have a sense that the culture is one that isn't serving them, or actually the way that the organization wants to function, and they leave. So that's certainly one thing. You tend to find that absenteeism is higher, that people don't come to work, they have an excuse, they get sick, or there's some reason for them not going to work, and then there are things like in the culture, you find that there's misunderstandings because communication isn't very good, and also that organizations tend to be siloed. So departments work not to support each other, but they tend to be in competition with each other. And some leaders actually set it up that way deliberately because they think they're going to get more out of people, but actually they get less. So it's very much a negative strategy, that one. So communication is really important, and in all sorts of ways. So that if an executive team don't know what's going on lower down the organization, they've got a couple of options. One is to go and listen and another is to make it up. And a lot of leadership teams do actually do that. They make up in their minds what's going on lower down in the organization, and that's pretty insulting for the people lower down, and so morale goes down, and as I've said earlier, then people tend to leave. So morale, listening, retention, happy cultures. If you've got a culture where people sort of come to work, they're pretty miserable, or they don't express themselves and they go home again, that's not a good culture. We need actually, people function really well if they're having some fun, dare I say it. So all of those.
Well, okay. So, still talking about your book, as readers read your book, what do you hope they take away from it? It's for those who are not leaders, who are aspiring leaders.
Well, I'd like them to get the book first off, and I think in a lot of countries that's difficult because the main outlet is Amazon. I don't know how countries that don't have Amazon work, but you can actually order it through a decent bookshop. So that's without going through Amazon. That's the first thing. It's not a book with a load of solutions. It's not telling you what to do. What it's trying to do is to open your mind to some concepts that you may not have thought of or considered before. So I think that one of the major things that I'm doing is drawing parallels between how nature works and how organizations work. And one of the problems, I think, today is that we've lost sight and touch with nature. We as a species have kind of decided that we know best, that nature should be subservient to us. And that's a very foolish way of looking at things. And the fact is that nature has developed its wisdom over the last nearly 3 billion years. So over that time, it's had some time to make some mistakes and learn and create a lot of wisdom. And we're silly to ignore that. So there are all sorts of things going on in nature that we can try and emulate, or we can learn from. Just a very small example is if you look at a tree plantation which has all got the same species of tree, it doesn't actually do very well. But if you have a forest with all the natural diversity in it, you can see in sort of corporation terms, you can see innovation, you can see creativity, and you can see different species nourishing each other. And that's what we need in organizations. We need to get the best out of the spread of people, as opposed to a lot of leadership principles which are well, I'm the boss, I tell you what to do, this is how you think, and this is what you do. And that's like planting a bunch of trees all the same. You get some, but there isn't a flourishing. And in today's heat issues that we've got in so many countries, they're much more likely to burn down. Whereas forests have a natural resilience in them. So that's just one very small example of where we can learn from nature. There are many examples, and a lot of them are in the book. But in some ways, I'm only touching the surface because there are so many examples. Um, I think really the point is we lose a great deal by being so arrogant that we think we know better than nature. We don't. And we are not above nature, we are part of the whole. And if we see ourselves in that light, everything starts to function an awful lot better. So that's kind of the thrust of the book.
Okay, thank you, Thom. So, if a company wants to begin shifting towards a human-centered culture, where should it start from? And you said most of this information are not on your book, so maybe you might want to share a little bit so that those who are reading your book might have some background experience from this conversation, so that the book becomes like a guide, even though you said it's not meant to be a guide.
Well, it's certainly a guide. It just doesn't give you do this, do that, do the other, because
Okay, okay,
that's the
okay,
kind of mindset that I'm trying to get away from.
okay, okay.
What I'm saying is that people have a natural wisdom of their own, and it's finding ways to access this that leads to a new level of success. So when you talk about human, I think you said human centered. What do organizations do? What do the leaders of organizations do? Well, I think the first thing to do is to look at what is the purpose of our organization. What are we actually trying to do? And if the answer is we're just trying to make money, then that's not a good start point. We need something that has more substance in it. And I think most really successful organizations do have that sense of a purpose beyond just making money. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to communicate that, to honor the people who are working in the organization with the respect that says you are part of this, and here are the parts that we think you play. Does that fit? Is that getting the best out of you? People I think in so many organizations have so much more to offer than they're allowed to because the organization wants to control them. And letting go of control is just so important, and actually for most leaders it's a big challenge, letting go. So I encourage all leaders to explore themselves and to get to know themselves, get to know their motivations, get to know what's important to them and what drives them. And those are deep questions. But leaders who come to me, we explore those things, and people begin to see, oh, I see. So when this is happening in organization, I get a bit distressed because I'm not so in control. And then I try to control, and then everything goes to rats. So I've got to learn to let go. And there are ways in which we can work together to find that sort of formula, which is an individual one. And we're all different. And I think it's much better if we're all treated according to who we are, what our strengths are. And that's all part of treating people as human beings, which I think takes you back to the question you asked.
Okay, thank you so much. So, talking about letting go of control, that cannot be very easy to. I'm sure you know that, right?
Absolutely, it's not easy because we've all been taught that that's the way people lead, and that's a teaching that is hopelessly out of date. And we need to change. We need to change. But yes, people who've been taught that think that's the way it's got to be, uh, just like they feel like they can't be wrong in front of the people they're leading, because otherwise those people will get fed up and criticize them or not follow them anymore. But actually, the reverse is true. But it takes a lot um, of courage, determination to try a new way of leading, and then acknowledging and seeing that things happen differently, but the outcome is better. It's really tough if you think, right, this is the way things have got to be done. And actually, the best way for things to be done is different. So you have to let go. You have to let go. And an awful lot of people really hate doing that. But that's the way forward. I mean, basically, it's the way forward because things are so complex now. If you apply the old model of leadership to such complex situations, leaders can't cope, which is why they're so stressed and you have so much burnout because they can't control everything and they're trying to. Well, that's what having a coach is about. And, I work with a lot of people as a coach in that way to help them find a way of leading which actually is less stressful but more effective. How good is that?
That's very good. So, I really hope I can be able to release control because I struggle to release control. I always want to be in control in my life, in everything I'm doing. And I've learned, Tom, do you know I've learned when I try to release control, things begin to work better.
Hmm.
Does that
There
apply to
you,
you too?
there you are. You see, yeah.
Uh,
Letting go is tough. It's not, but letting go isn't
thank
ignoring
you so much.
everything and just
So,
going away.
okay. So, what lessons from the military experience influence the way you coach executives today? I think people who are in the military they make better leaders. I've had most guests who are in the military. I think the last guest I had before you, he has a book during the "Don't Tell, Don't Ask" era. He wrote a book. He was in the military, so I think they make better leaders and better authors. Why do you think that is the case?
Hmm. Well, I've seen some pretty lousy leaders in the military as well. But
Okay,
I,
go on.
I think that one of the things that the military does is to train people, and it trains them and trains them and trains them. It gives them exercises so that their whole life is around learning, practicing, seeing what works, seeing what didn't work, reviewing all of that. And in the corporate world, um, there's very little resource that's given to training. It's all about doing, doing, doing. And that might be okay if there was a moment to say, well, we've been doing all this doing, and how's it going? What are we learning? Uh, and, in a lot of organizations, somebody makes a mistake and they get fired, which doesn't help anything, really. It's much better if you can stop and say, "Whoa, what do we learn from this? you made a mistake. Why? Did you misunderstand? Did you do something that we didn't want you to do? Did we give unclear instructions? There could be many things. But in the military, they practice a lot. And they're also looking at people coming up the line who might be quite junior, who they want to bring on. So they'll stretch them. They'll give them situations to practice with. And organizations could do a lot of that, but they don't, on the whole. I mean, there are one or two organizations I've come across where they do invest in their prospective leaders as well as the leaders themselves, and you'll see that on the whole they are much more professional than other than other organizations. So that's the short answer. Practice and review. That's what we need more of.
Okay, Thom, thank you so much. I was beginning to think everyone in the military made great leaders. So, uh, looking ahead, how do you think leadership will evolve over the next decade?
That's an interesting question. I think a lot depends, actually, what happens in the world. We have 3 dictators. Well, we've got lots more than that, but 3 major dictators, one in China, one in Russia, and one in America, who are demonstrating. Actually, I might even leave China out of that, but because the Chinese culture is such, it's just very different. But certainly in America and Russia, you've got 2 people there who have made a load of decisions which are, they don't even work for themselves, let alone for anybody else. But they're affecting great chunks of the population of the world. And there are, because there's so much dissatisfaction, there's this push to go to more extreme levels of leadership. The number of people, it is extraordinary, the number of people who say that they like a leader like that because they make decisions and they show leadership, and that's what how people describe it. I wouldn't call that leadership at all. But all the time that people are trying to emulate that kind of leadership, then we have well, it's a kind of a problem, really. It's a state of affairs where the world is disintegrating into some horrible, desperate situations. Now, there are lots of movements now that are looking and just saying, look, this leadership does not work. It doesn't work at any level. And we need a much more enlightened way of leading. Now, my belief is in the next couple of years that kind of thinking will gain primacy. And these dreadful leaders will, and I guess I would include, well, let's leave it at that. I think that these people will fall, and then it's a case of what do we replace it with? You see, in the corporate world, they they tend to emulate what's going on more broadly. And that's why I've taken that sort of view about what's going on in the world. We're going to have population movement like nothing we've seen so far. Massive population movements are going to come about. And that's going to put pressure on leaders in countries, far greater than what they're dealing with now. And there's a lot of countries, not least the UK and America, where these pressures are already at bursting point. So this is a long way of saying, I think that in the next few years, leadership will fundamentally change, because there's enough people who realize that the old way of leading just does not work. It hasn't worked for a long time, and it absolutely doesn't work in the environments of the massive stressors that are coming. So in that sense, I think that my book is very timely, because I'm really saying we need a new way of leading, and it's one that honors the wisdom of the earth and nature, and and in that it honors people as individuals, because most of the dreadful leadership that's going on in the moment, and it's from the Gulf to Sudan to Lebanon to the US to the UK, I mean, all over the places, we're needing something new. And a lot of people are looking for a similar leadership to get themselves out of the problems, and it will not work. So it's a new leadership that's needed. And I think it'll emerge. And if it doesn't, we've got a very rocky time ahead.
All right, Tom. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us and sharing your insights on leadership, culture, and navigating complexity. So, if every leader listening today and every listener takes your book and they want to make one change tomorrow, what would you encourage them to do?
Listen. Slow down and listen. Listen to the people around you. If you're responsible for people, listen to them. Create a silent space where you can listen to yourself. That means turning off the phone. It means turning off the television. It means turning off the radio. And allowing yourself some space, some quiet to listen. And you can do that also by going out. Go out into nature if you can. And just listen to the wind. Listen to the trees. Listen to the rocks. And just see what you hear. And you might not hear anything for a while, but eventually you will. And that's a deeper wisdom. We all need to do that.
So, for those who want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. Look for me, Thom Thom, Dennis Dennis. Reach out, and let's have a conversation about leadership. And I'd encourage people to get hold of the book if they can. I've also got Instagram, obviously, and Facebook and all these things. And on Instagram, Thom Dennis Executive Coach is the handle. But they're all linked together. Or you can go onto Linktree and just put Thom Dennis, THOMDENNIS, and that'll give you all the links. So, but hopefully you'll put those in the notes as well.
All right, thank you so much. Also, thank you, my listeners, as well. Make sure to check out Tom's book. And if this episode is speaking to you, share it with someone out there who might need to hear this. Until next time, I'll see you guys again. Bye, guys, and have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Bye bye now.
All right, Tom.